Hey guys, you're watching the Best Practices Show where we take a look at the best business practices from the best dental practices all over the world. And if you're growing a dental practice, one of the most important metrics you need to know is active patients. And there are some things you really need to know. And so today we're going to be talking about the truth of active patients in a real dental practice with our chief data engineer expert, Curtis Marshall from Dental Intel. Do not miss this. Do me a favor, grab a pen and hit the share button. We'll see you in a few seconds. Hey guys, you're watching the Best Practice Show. Thank you so much for watching. And we have our data engineer expert on today. I got my music playing in the background here. I'm going to turn that off here. Hold on one second.
Nothing wrong with good music, Kirk.
Nothing wrong with a little good music. Thank you guys for tuning in. We are having so much fun doing these shows. And today we're going to be examining one of the most important pieces of a dental practice, which is truly getting our arms around the metric of active patients. And there's some things that might be leading you in the wrong direction. And today we're going to clear them up, what you really need to know about improving a dental practice, not only driving the valuation, but the overall activity through active patients with our chief data expert engineer, Curtis Marshall. Now, couple show notes. We are shooting this live on Facebook. So as you have questions, if you have them, add them to the feed and I'll ask Curtis directly while we have him on here and we'll get our answer straight from the top. Also, if you're watching this later on, which we watch the metrics on this, people are watching them late at night on different days. If you have questions, continue to add them to the feed and we'll make sure we give you the answers or get you the answers because we want you to get the most out of this. Now, my guest today, Curtis, you've been a great friend and a colleague of ours for a long time. And you're part of Dental Intel. For those people that don't know who you are, give us a little background on who Curtis Marshall is and what Dental Intel is.
Thanks, Kirk. And by the way, once again, so glad to be talking about active patients because it is a metric that is so broad and no one really understands and knows about. But if we understand what's happening, that's when we can improve. The things we focus on grow. I think you're the one you've said that multiple times. And so, my name's Curtis Marshall. I have a beautiful family, 3 little girls, and love data. I love looking at data, analyzing it, and making action plans from it. I work over here at Dental Intel, and what we do is we provide that data to offices knowing exactly what to do today, not necessarily what happened in the past. Because unless you're Marty McFly, you cannot change the past. You can only change what's going on today and tomorrow. And so that's what Dental Intel does, and that's what I do over here, help people understand how to use it.
Yeah, and one of the things that you've helped me with so much as I've gotten to know you and you guys have shown us so much insight and made our job so much easier as we're coaching dental practices, there's a difference between data that's lagging and data that's actionable. Can you just talk about that real quick? Because I love that. Because for years, we looked at lagging data that happened in the past, last year, and try to make adjustments. And you could, but there's a huge trend going on in dentistry now, and that is actionable data.
Ginormous. Now, Kirk, I love the fact that you brought this up. We weren't even going to talk about it. But leading and lagging indicators. Leading tells us, hey, this is what you need to do. Lagging is what happened. For example, a lagging indicator is production. You produced $100,000 last month, let's say, right? You produced it. What's that tell you? It doesn't say, all it is that's what happened. It doesn't tell you, oh, the reason why you hit this was because of X. The reason why you didn't do more is because of Y. It's just a lagging indicator that tells you what happened exactly. A leading indicator is like looking out a windshield of a car and you're able to see the exit coming up. Oh, I want to go off of that exit, so you put your blinker on and you go over there before it happens. Right. Those are leading indicators, and that's Your team needs to understand that that's the only thing that they can improve. They can't improve last month, but they can improve what's being scheduled. So for example, scheduled production for tomorrow is a leading indicator. Mm-hmm. Are you up? Are you down? Are you hitting goal? Are you not for tomorrow's scheduled production? Very interesting difference between leading and lagging.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're talking about how this relates to active patients. But take us into the profitability formula, which you opened our eyes to, which I'd love to. Can you show us that?
Absolutely. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, team. What we're going to be looking at here is very simple. Like Kirk's pen and paper, jot this down, show this to anyone, any friends, anybody you went to dental school with, anyone out there. This is what we need to be focusing on rather than lagging, which are collections, new patients, production. All those are lagging stuff. This is now looking at my visits times my production per visit. That's what equals production. Mm-hmm. And both the amount of visits I have in the future or today and the amount of production that I'm doing per visit today or tomorrow, those are things I can change instantly.
Right.
And as you can see, these are some instances on how to change production per visit. That's what PPV is, production per visit. We can increase our fees. You can increase the dependency of PPOs. You can expand, do more procedures. It goes on, and we'll be going over these in the future. Visits times production per visit equals your production. Visits times production per visit times collection percentage. That's what equals collections. Subtract your overhead, you get more money.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to be taking these apart in each one of these episodes and kind of giving them definitions on each one. But when we talk about visits, let's go into that one because we're going to be talking about active patients. And it's really cool because everything in dentistry goes back to one of these 5 metrics. You know, all the things that you want to measure that would be leading indicators. And today we're going to be talking about visits and active patients. Give us a little definition on what active patients is because this comes up. People are selling practices now or looking to transition and they're like, I've got 5,000 active patients. And then brokers come in there and they go, no, you've got, 1,500 or 2,000. How would you define an active patient right now?
Good question. So this question I ask multiple offices all the time, seeing what their true active patient is. And to be honest, me as Curtis Marshall, I view an active patient differently than what the definition we're going to give coming up. I view an active patient as somebody who is coming in for appointments 2 times a year for hygiene. They refer their friends and family, and every time you present treatment, they accept it.
Right.
I mean, that ultimately, that's an active patient, right?
Very.
Okay, so we're going to dumb it down even further than that, though. We're going to make it very simple, cut and dry, without a doubt. A patient who is marked active in your practice management system. Mm-hmm. And we've seen them in the last 18 months. They've had a completed appointment in the last 18 months, and they're marked active.
Okay.
So with that, Kirk, what types of things could be misleading or maybe questions somebody might have about an active patient now?
Well, you can, and that's what we're going to be talking about. We're talking about losing or gaining these patients, and there's some ways that you can lose them. Sometimes, here's a great one. Patients come into the practice as new patients, but they're not scheduled for future hygiene appointments, and all we talk about is restorative work, and then they disappear. Sometimes you have a patient in hygiene, and they don't get rescheduled for the next hygiene appointment, and they disappear. This happens over and over in every practice, in every column, in every city, every day. And if dentists aren't aware of how they're losing these patients, they continue to drive the effort train, which is what we talked about last time, and just drive more new patients to the practice while so many of them are leaving the back door.
So many. But how, and that's a crazy question, is how are they leaving the back door? Now, I started my dental career, and by the way, love the dental field. This is my favorite. I started being in marketing in a practice. We got up to, Kirk, we were increased new patients every month, 400 new patients a month in our practice. Okay. It was a big practice. We were killing it, okay? But our production was only increasing a little bit. And I knew we were losing patients, but I didn't know how. I didn't know who they were. I didn't know how. So guess what we started doing? I just kept pushing out more cash to get more new patients because I knew that would at least sustain me and keep us above water if I kept getting more new patients. But I didn't know how things are getting lost. So there's only two ways to gain active patients and two ways to lose active patients. That's what we want to discover first.
Okay. So let's go into how do you want to start with lose or gain? Which one?
Let's start with, good question. Let's start with lose. Let's this is what we want to know, how to lose. Okay, lose patients. Very basic and simple. Unfortunately, our patients do die. They do move. Right. And sometimes we just don't want to see them anymore, right? We dismiss them from our practice. So marking them inactive, that would be losing a patient, right?
Right.
Okay, so that's one way. The other way is that we haven't seen them in the office for 18 months. Here's what's crazy. We've seen over thousands of practices across the country. Once they fall into this bucket, we call it the 18-month lost bucket, well, whatever you want to call it. They're lost, right? Only 5% of those patients come back.
Now, why is that? Have you guys come to a clear definition or a hypothesis on that?
Ultimately, there's no systems in place to go get them. And ultimately, if they're not coming back on their own, they're not coming back. Or after 18 months, they've already decided, hey, I'm going to go somewhere else. I don't need to go to you as a dentist. There are multiple reasons, but the common factor is if they don't come into the office within 18 months, we only get 5% back. So if 100 people fall into your bucket, only 5 are coming back into your office on average.
Yeah, so it comes back to the whole cliche is that, it's one thing to try to get new patients, but really the key is how do we keep them and retain them, because it's less expensive to do that over the career of, your entire career in your practice. So obviously they can become inactive. Now I have so many questions on this because we are data freaks too, and we love studying the computers when we go into an office, but the inactive thing, there are some people that don't mark them inactive. There are patients that move. Which is totally fine. That happens at times, right?
Oh, actually, quite more often than you would think. Or we're marking them inactive when it's been 2 years. Or longer. They're already considered lost, right? And we're marking them inactive. The only benefit to marking somebody inactive is knowing immediately, oh, they moved. I know what just happened. They just had an appointment 6 months ago, and they are now lost because of a reason. I'm going to mark. That's the only time you really need to, we're in 2018. If you can't find out how many patients you've lost due to inactivity, 18 months, and under 18 months, how many you marked inactive, then we need some more education, which is why we're here today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we talked about inactive. What's the other way that you can lose patients, obviously?
Inactivity, activity, meaning we haven't seen them due to 18 months. And the other way is marking them inactive in your practice management system. Only two ways. You physically mark them inactive, or you haven't seen them in 18 months. Now, think about if you did this, though. If you tracked how many patients left you 18 months ago, or who haven't been in the office for 18 months. And then you also tracked all the ones that you marked inactive, and it was 3 years, and you're now counting them twice. That's not good. So what we're going to show you here in 2 seconds is all the patients who left the office 18 months ago, and all the patients you marked inactive under the 18 months. If you marked them inactive and they're already in this pile, we're not going to count them twice.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So that's the only way to lose active patients.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah. Now, this graphic that you're going to show us and how it all works, it's very important because you might be sitting here thinking, well, why do I need to know this? There's a very important reason why you need to know this. Because so many, again, goes back to the effort train. So many people are putting so much pressure on the new that when you look at the net results, you're in the negative sometimes when you have too many patients becoming inactive or falling outside of the 18-month window.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead. Do you mind if we pull that up?
Let's go ahead.
Okay, let's pull this up. This is, why didn't it come up for me? Hold on. You see it. There we go.
I see. Yeah.
Okay. So this, here in this practice, this is Dr. Brown in Smiletown, USA. All this data is HIPAA secured. We're not going to be looking at anything here. So what we got here are active patients. These are patients that have been in the office in the last 18 months. 2,628 patients. Now, Kirk, if they were to pull out of their practice management system the active patient number, it's going to be a lot bigger than this.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? We're going to reiterate it again. Why would their number out of the practice management system be higher than this number?
For a lot of different reasons. Sometimes it's not entered accurately. It's got to be linked to an appointment, correct?
Correct. If they've had an appointment in the last 18 months, they're counted here. Your practice management system is showing everyone who is physically marked active. So if you saw a patient 5 years ago and they're marked active in your system and you pull an active patient report out of Open Dental, EagleSoft, Dentrex, SoftDent, blah, 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 if you pull it out of there, they're going to show you all the active patients. This is saying out of all those patients, how many have we seen in the last 18 months? Boom, it's right here.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Now, watch this. This is where it gets a lot of fun. We can see that last year in this office, at the beginning of the year, how many active patients did they have?
Yeah,
2,000.
25.
Mm-hmm.
2538. Mm-hmm.
Let's just make it easy. Like you said, 2,500. At the end of the year, they had some ups and downs. They probably marked some people inactive. They had some ups and downs, though. At the end of the year, their net gain of active patients was 2,589. So let's just make numbers easy. Let's say they increased by 90, right? They started, 2,540.
Really by 50, somewhere in there.
25, yeah. So 50.
55.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, let's be generous. Let's say 55.
Okay.
So most likely, if they gained active patients by 55, last year they got about 55 new patients, hopefully. Right?
Right.
Let's see how many new patients they did have last year. And this is not picking on this office. This is what it is. These are accurate, true numbers that's happening in an office. Now, there's a bunch of other cool numbers we're going to be going over in the future, but ultimately, we want to look at how many new patients this office had last year.
Mm-hmm.
How many did they have in 2017?
Well, 870, is that right? 871?
That is correct, Kirk. 871 patients. They only grew by 55, which means that 800 and, help me out here, 15 were lost. 815 patients were lost somehow.
That's crazy. I'd love to see their marketing budget, how much they spent on marketing to get those patients if they did. Now, why is that though? Because the one thing I'm going to constantly reiterate in our education with you is that data doesn't lie. So as much as people want to fight this and go, oh, they're probably not good at that. You know, the truth is that when you pull the data, it tells a story. And the key here is to find out the story. So Curtis, what are the stories that you learn when you find such a huge discrepancy?
And by the way, Kirk, this is not unique. This situation that we're seeing here is not unique. What we're seeing across the country is that people are losing active patients and they don't even realize it. And it comes down to very simple. If I saw 10 patients and I out of those 10 patients, I only rescheduled 7. Oh, wow, I can't even add. I only rescheduled 8, right? Mm-hmm. Those 8 patients come back in 6 months. And I still only reschedule about that same amount. I have 10 patients at the beginning of the year. Now I only have 6 active patients because 4 don't have a future appointment.
Right.
That compounds. And now all of a sudden we're losing 800 active patients. And unless I haven't seen anything else. I've seen a lot of different things, but I've never seen anything else like dental intel that shows you exactly how many patients you're losing every day, every week, every month, every year.
Yeah. Now I just want to pause because on the screen, if you guys are watching this, look at the wheel all the way to the right. One of my favorite things that this thing does is it points out the number of unscheduled active patients that you have. So that's 1,394 people that do not have an appointment within the 18 months. Is that correct? Is that what that number shows?
So
Or is
you're absolutely right. So
Okay.
out of our active patients that we have in this office, which was what, 20-something thousand, 2,600, excuse me?
2,600. Mm-hmm.
Okay. There are 13, almost 1,400 patients with 0 appointments. Not just not a hygiene appointment. They have no appointments.
Right.
There are that many patients that don't have a future appointment. And that was back in January. If we look at this right now, February, at the end of February, excuse me, 6 days ago, that number was, survey says, oh, it's blurring out all the data right now so that it's not going to, no HIPAA stuff. I shouldn't have changed that probably, but
That's okay.
there we go.
And let me just add
Same
this.
amount.
Yeah, you would probably say, again, this is not unusual. You know, there are so many lost
unfortunately,
in a practice. And it goes, myself and our team of coaches, we constantly talk about this. Like there are so many practices we coach, they don't need one more new patient. They just need to keep the ones that they have.
and that's what's happening nationwide is that we're seeing all of a sudden, oh, my goodness, now I know where to improve. It's not just do more, work harder, stay later, open more days, work on Saturdays. It's not that.
Mm-hmm.
It's what's actually happening in your practice and just fix a few small little things. And all of a sudden, you're actually doing more dentistry. You're having patients come back for hygiene. They're referring their friends and family. And life is better for the team.
Yeah. So let's go back to this. So we've talked about the ways to lose patients. Let's talk about the ways that you can gain them. And there's 2 to grow your true active patient base. What are they?
Okay, so love it, Kirk. There's only 2 ways to lose and 2 ways to gain. Once again, our ultimate goal is to get more active patients or keep it the same.
Mm-hmm.
You know, depending on your office, it's one of the 2 things. So if I want to grow active patients, and by the way, if I'm losing 800 in a year, then I've got to grow a lot, right?
Right.
Only 2 ways to gain. Either 1, we're going to increase new patients, which that's what every marketing company wants you to do. That's what you get preached to left and right. Do more marketing, which it is important. Second way, pull from that 18 months. So we have all those patients that we haven't seen in 18 months, bring them back in. We call that recaptured. Kirk, what do you call that when you bring a patient back from 18 months back into the office?
Well, I call it recapture now too with you. But really, let me just add one thing because that is very true. But Curtis, that's really the least efficient way to do it. The most efficient way to recapture or keep these people is to do it while they're in the office. And we're going to get into future conversations on hygiene reappointment percentages, but that's one of the fastest ways to improve a dental practice is make sure that your team is paying very close attention to the number of people that are coming into the practice, and then they're being reappointed for future appointments. But the thing that you've helped us with and that my coaches help me understand all the time is that the more we do later, has exponential implications. So recapturing patients is great. It's awesome to bring them back into practice, but we don't want to put that heavy administrative load on everybody up front to make sure that that happens, right?
Well, not only that. Okay, so what? You actually have to make your team work harder or you have to hire more staff. Okay, whatever that's the case, you need to do more work now for your team. What's even more important is that these patients right here, they haven't seen a dentist in 18 months. That's what hurts. What hurts is that the patient care has decreased. These patients haven't seen a dentist in 18 months.
Right.
So we're disservicing it twice by not rescheduling. We're making our teams work harder, and we're not taking as good care of our patients as we can.
Yep.
So out of these 2,000 active patients, 2,600 active patients, only 49% have a future appointment.
Okay, now pause on that because there's a difference. We've talked about it before, but pre-appointment and reappointment. What's pre-appointment percentage?
Pre-appointment means as of today, today's March 6th, as of today, 49% have a future appointment.
No, wait. But we get all of them. Our practice, how many times do you hear that? No, we have all of them. All of our patients are pre-appointed.
Yeah, and we, they may be leaving with an appointment, but as of today, we're seeing 30 to 40% have a future appointment. And this office is doing a little bit better than the average. They're at 50. Where do you stand? Do you know exactly, not just how many left the office, but do you know how many patients of your active patients have a future appointment?
Right. First of all, yeah, I'm sorry, buddy. I'm just so excited about this. This is so key what you're saying because number one, you have to know the number. You can't guess because again, data doesn't lie. Now, can you imagine this? Let's say this is your practice and you're a little bit better than average and you're 49%. What happens when you get to 54% or 60%? My guess, I'm going to answer the question for you, is you have no place to put a lot of these people. Your hygiene schedule is now at full capacity. As a result, your restorative schedule is also full. So we're not looking for perfect here. All we're looking for is progress. The first part in any progress is telling the truth and knowing where the number's at and then improving it by just a little bit. You can do that through verbal skills. You can do that through just little pieces of work as a team every day. But this is such an important component of any healthy business.
So true, Kirk. And you've got, for anybody who hasn't seen Kirk's videos, he has one really good one of understanding, hey, if you're going to put a puzzle together, you first need to know, or at least to make it easier, you need to know what the end result looks like. Right now, if you don't know what the end result or what you're even at or what the end result is, it's very difficult to put that puzzle together. Now that you have this, it's like, oh, I know exactly where I'm going to improve. I'm going to get that done. And believe it or not, Kirk, they increased this number by 10% within the first 3 months. Offices who pay attention to this number within 3 months improve pre-appointment percentage by 10%. 10% improvement here increases profits by 15%.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah, and as the formula that you showed earlier, it has an exponential impact the further you go down the formula. You increase the number of visits, which drives the number of active patients, production per visit, all the way down. You're exactly right. It has this incredible impact all the way through. Now, I have to say this too. One more thing, because again, I'm so excited about this, is that we have found this. What gets measured gets improved, but what gets measured and reported on gets exponentially improved. No different than looking at your weight, looking at your lipids. When you're looking at them on a regular, consistent basis, you're going to want to see the number improve. No different than watching your children's grades or anything like that. If you don't look at them periodically, there's a good chance they're not going to get better.
So key, Kirk. So key. And here's the cool thing. You said, you start to increase this number. You don't have a room in your office, and maybe you don't want to grow room, but guess what we can now do? We can now get rid of Delta Dental.
Right.
You can now pick which insurances you want to be using in your practice. You can be very selective now on having the exact active patient you want instead of just trying to do more and trying to do better.
Yep.
Anyway, we could go down that road forever, but
well,
really,
and it's important too. I do want to go down that road for just a little bit because what happens is, and I just came back out from working with a great study club out east, and as everyone talks along the coast, look, PPOs are killing us. We're 87% PPO, and they can't see a way out of it. They feel like they're almost boiled frogs in this whole syndrome. Like, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. But when you look at data, you don't have to go crazy. You can start tightening, the screws or playing with some of the knobs to say, hey, look, I don't want to go crazy and add more hours, because what you're going to learn, or what you're going to see when you hang up and get off this video, you're going to surf the internet. You're going to go to great sites, and they're going to tell you about expanding capacity and opening up your hours to drive revenue. And that is very true. But is that truly what you want for your dental practice? I think doing dentistry right now without x-rays or digital images is irresponsible. I think running a dental practice without data is always also irresponsible. Now, I got a couple of questions.
Not just for you, Kirk, not just for you, for your patients. Look at this, right? They can be at much higher than this. And because they don't know where they are, they can't help their patients.
Right. Now, I have so many questions. One of them from our good friend Deepak, who asked this question: who all on the team should we share these stats with? Just the leadership team or the whole team? Great question.
That is like, here's one thing, doctor, great question. Because typically when an office manager or an owner sees numbers, they hide it. They're like, oh, I know this number, no one else does. We stink, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden these numbers should be shown to every team member.
Yeah.
Every team member is trying to increase patient care. Every team member is trying to increase team performance. They should know what an active patient is and how many active patients they have. They should know how we lose patients. And look at this. We even show a graph that shows exactly how you're losing patients and how you're gaining patients. In October of 2017, they got 75 new patients, brand new patients. They recaptured 16. So from that bucket, they recaptured 16. Kirk, how many did they grow by in October?
I'm trying to read the screen here.
Negative.
Not negative. What does that say? 62?
62. So
that's crazy.
Decreased 62. Now, granted, we can see here that they status changed 91, meaning they physically marked 91 inactive. So they were probably cleaning up some database, whatever. So they should have seen a negative, but not by 62. They actually should have been 0.
Right.
Because 62 patients also fell into that bucket.
Yeah.
If your team members don't know, they can't help you improve. Go ahead, Kirk.
Yeah. Now, you and I have looked at this practice together many times. Now, as you're going to notice, if you're watching this video, look at what happens to the actual growth line between November and February. And you asked me this question, what do you think happened? Like, look at this. The net is exponential. So, Curtis, give us some insight in what happened in those months right there.
Good, Kirk. So as you can see, that purple line, that's the growth. So they were 35 increased, 37 increased, and in January, they increased by 53 active patients. Okay? That's what their growth of active patients were. Right. The only thing that's different, and let's go ahead and take off status change. Look what was different in losing patients in December and January. Their patients that fell into that bucket were much less than previous months. They only had 29, still that's a lot, and 36 patients fall into that bucket, where in the past they've been 48, 62, 70, 59, right? Yeah. They started to be aware, not letting patients fall into this trap. And then guess what happened all of a sudden in February again? Because they stopped looking at the data last month, they lost 46 patients.
Right. And let me give you the kicker here. This isn't true for every practice, but when you take that report and you start looking at the number of inactive patients, which you can see is 46 here, you're losing a lot of fee-for-service patients, because some PPOs force patients. Remember, one of their benefits. Yeah, one of the benefits of being on a Delta PPO or lousy PPO is that you're being forced and reminded to be regular in a dental practice. So, unintentionally, you're building more of an insurance-driven practice by not retaining these good patients, because there's no mechanism for somebody that's paying cash to stay into your practice. So having this data, now what's really cool is you can do a deeper dive, and we won't get into that today, but you can really do a deeper dive and you can see each one of the patients. Now, this is really sad, but as you go into every patient, you're going to go, that's Mrs. Finelli. How did she get there? And every team member will go, oh, she's one of our best patients. She's good for that. No, she didn't make an appointment and she drifted off into the universe. Now, that happens every day in every column in every practice. So it's really important to have this data. Now, one more thing, because Curtis, I know we only get you for a few more minutes and we're going to do so many more of these. Rob Ritter mentioned our good friend Rob Ritter down in Florida.
Oh,
Ritter
love
and
Rob.
Ramsey,
Hey, Rob.
who those guys are rock stars. They said to Deepak's question, which was posed earlier on the broadcast, should the whole team be informed of this information? And he said all of our team members have the mobile app so they can review it the night before and they're ready to roll in the morning huddle. And he calls it one of the most important apps.
The Dental Intel app is climbing on being the most downloaded dental app in the dental field. Go on there. If you have Dental Intel, you can download your own little app and see exactly what's happening in your practice. You no more need to remote log in, but more importantly, now your team knows exactly where to improve, and not just I'm trying hard, doctor. I'm trying hard as I'm looking on my Facebook. Right? Or as I call my daughter during lunch, and I'm more worried about taking care of my lunch rather than taking care of my patients.
Right. So if you're watching this, I think it's critically important. You have to have the data. Please use this video, share it with your team about the truth around active patients. Have a conversation on the 2 ways you lose patients and the 2 ways that you gain patients, because as a dentist, you're not the only one who's got to be working in the right direction. You got to get everybody rowing in the right direction, and that's one way to do it. And if you want to see how your practice operates, Curtis, you guys have been so gracious to create what's called the snapshot. It's basically a report card for your practice. Anyone that's watching this broadcast, you can click on the link. We've included it in the post, and you can actually get a free snapshot. Now, Curtis, what is a snapshot? Can you describe what it is and how it works? And it only takes a few minutes, right?
Yeah, it's real quick. All we do is we put a little sync tool, gather your data, and we can show you exactly how many active patients you have, and out of your active patients, how many have a future appointment.
Right.
What we just saw today, we can show you for your office within just a few minutes.
Yeah.
So absolutely fill that out. Make sure to put ACT down at the bottom for your promo code, and we'll give you something special too.
Yeah, and you're crazy if you don't do it. Let me warn you, it's going to freak you out, because you're going to think, oh, we're so great, and you're going to see. Now, this isn't about making you feel bad. This is about recognizing where the true opportunities for growth are. Yes. Oh, man, that's the whole point. That's where successful people are successful and non-successful people continue to be unsuccessful, is because the successful people know where they are in order to improve. The unsuccessful people are guessing. I'm sure I'm good. I feel like I'm good. Yeah. My feeling is we're doing well. You heard it from
5 more years.
Yeah. You heard it from the chief data expert. You got to know it, and you know the truth. So Curtis, thank you so much. I know you got to run here in a few minutes. We'll be back again next week, taking apart each one of these metrics for weeks to come. Thank you so much. Continue to add your questions to the feed. We will answer them as best we can, and then ask some more questions. We'll get our chief data expert back, and you've just made our lives so much better, and our clients are so much better. Everybody who's watching this. So thank you, buddy. And stick around while we say goodbye to everybody else. But thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed today's episode, which I hope you did, do us a favor, just hit the share button, share with your friends. We'll see you next time on the Best Practices Show. You guys have a great evening.